Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to our channel Shahid Speaks, where we discuss about current events, education, politics, social issues, and many things which impact our daily lives. Today, inshallah, we will be discussing about a very important and a very interesting subject related to history and related morely to the Indian history. Though it is 300 years old, but the name still echoes in the politics of Indian subcontinent. To discuss that, and to talk about this session today, we have our esteemed and special guest, Pablo Di Cianna, with us. And let me just introduce him. Our brother Pablo Di Cianna, he is a Muslim revert from an Italian background who resides in UK and has a deep passion towards history of the Mughals, the Andalusia, the Muslim Spain, and the Ottoman Empire, and is passionate about history. He has completed his Bachelor of Arts in History from University of London, and inshallah, in September he will be starting his Master of Arts. He has in his own social media presence where he makes content related to history, and much of those history which are not known to people, and they are hidden in the books of history and are gems which really can give guidance to the people if we have a deep look upon it. So, without taking much time, I would like to welcome our today's guest, Brother Pablo Di Cianna. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure to be
Thank you
here.
so much for joining our podcast today, and it's really an honor to have you on our show.
Jazakallah khair for the opportunity. I can't lie, we've been wanting to do this for a long time, but alhamdulillah, we finally got the opportunity to enact on this plan. So today's topic is going to be on Aurangzeb, and more specifically about debunking the myths of Aurangzeb.
Yes.
The reason why I believe it's important for this video to be done is because Aurangzeb invokes a lot of emotion from non-Muslims within the Indian subcontinent. He's often used as a figure to hate on the Muslims. For example, a lot of people in the subcontinent are referred to in a derogatory way. Aurangzeb ki alud. Maybe you can give me a better pronunciation. They call the
Aulad,
progeny
yeah, it is for offspring.
the offspring of Aurangzeb, which tries to show that these people are backwards. They're foreigners. They're fanatics. So, inshallah, in today's video, I'll be debunking a lot of these myths.
Yes,
So,
inshallah. And
inshallah,
definitely, it is a very important topic because it currently relates to one of the mainstream politics which is being played in the name of Aurangzeb, and the myths that are surrounding it is leading to very devastating situation and the rise of hatred, hate speech, crimes related to our own community. So, inshallah, we will be discussing about the myths that are surrounding this personality, and inshallah we will conclude it in a way that it will be a guidance for all our viewers, for those people who have been misled. So let's start, Pablo, let's start with the thing that how exactly did Aurangzeb he come into the power. And before answering this, give a brief introduction that the Mughal dynasty which ruled India for nearly 300 years, what exactly like put an introduction to the Mughal empire.
so the Mughal Empire is established in 1526 by Zahiruddin Babur, or also known as Babur, and he establishes the Mughal Empire by defeating Ibrahim Lodi at the Battle of Panipat in 1526. And Ibrahim Lodi was the Sultan of Delhi at the time.
Yes.
Babur is a very interesting figure. The reason for this is that his mother is a descendant of Genghis Khan, and his father is a descendant of Timur or Tamerlane. He dies in 1530, and his son Humayun comes to power. Then his son Akbar comes into power. However, he's ruled under a regent by the name of Bayram Khan. And what's interesting about Akbar is that he starts off very religious. He leads the prayer at the Fatehpur Mosque in a district in Delhi. So he creates Deen Ilahi. And furthermore, he does have some funky advisors, some strange advisors that put ideas into his head that maybe he was somewhat divine and had special powers. The most notable of them was a man by the name of Abu Fazl, who brainwashed him into believing he was divine. He dies in 1605. His son Jahangir comes to power, and this is the claim. Jahangir says that he repented on his deathbed. Then Jahangir comes to power in 1605. He rules up until 1627, and it's during this time that his grandson Aurangzeb is born in 1618, because the Mughal emperors and the princes would have children at a young age, 18, 20, 22. So Shah Jahan was a prince during Jahangir's reign, and then at that time Aurangzeb was born. And interestingly, he was born in Gujarat, so that's something very interesting. And Aurangzeb had the normal Mughal education that nobles would have. For example, learning Quran, Hadith. He would even learn Turkish literature or Turani literature, Persian literature. So this was this was what he'll do, the normal education of a Muslim prince within the Mughal Empire. He would also learn the military arts, strategy, administrative skills, and whatnot. And the interesting thing about Aurangzeb was that in 1634, he receives a mansab of 10,000 men, essentially meaning that he received 10,000 soldiers under his command. Meanwhile, his brother, Dara Shikoh, stayed at the court. And this is where you see the divergence of Aurangzeb and Dara Shikoh, because with this mansab of 10,000 soldiers, it allowed him to gain military expertise, while Dara Shikoh would be at the court reading books, writing books, and being into philosophy and all these funky ideas. So he also becomes the governor of Burhanpur in 1634, which is in central India, while Dara Shikoh was still at the court. And wait, what was I? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
He was the governor of Burhanpur.
Burhanpur, and then he became governor of other places, even like the Deccan,
yes,
and whatnot. And he was very strong militarily. However, his brother Dara Shikoh was very weak. For example, in 1653, when Aurangzeb had failed to take Kandahar, because the city of Kandahar, which is in modern-day Afghanistan, it went between the Safavids to the Mughals, to the Safavids to the Mughals, and so the Safavids took it back. So Aurangzeb was sent to take it, but unfortunately he failed. Then Dara Shikoh was then sent, and this is the first time he stepped into the military. The first time he stepped into the military, he was the governor of. No, he was just in the court. Yeah, he was, and despite the fact he never went into the battlefield, he had this type of arrogance. He would say, "Oh, I'll take Kandahar and then Herat within a week." However, he failed miserably, and so Dara Shikoh felt some type of jealousy towards Aurangzeb. For example, he was on the verge of conquering Bijapur, which is in the Deccan. However, he managed to convince Shah Jahan to withdraw. So Aurangzeb was literally on the verge of conquering something that was a prized possession, or a prized possession. However, he had to withdraw because his father said, and he was a very obedient son, so he followed on his father's orders. So what happens next? This is in 1657, around between March to August. The following month, what happens? Shah Jahan fails to make an appearance on the Jaroka for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And so everyone thinks the king is dead. And therefore, Dara Shikoh thinks, you know what, there's going to be a war succession. So this, Dara Shikoh knows this. And that's why there's this brotherly rivalry during their time as princes, because they know that one time or another, when their father dies, they have to fight each other. And that time comes now, because Dara Shikoh, he doesn't want this to happen. So he tries to control the flow of information. So the ulama, the Muslims, were on Aurangzeb's side.
Mm-hmm.
And to go back to Dara Shikoh, despite Dara Shikoh's efforts, news reached all the brothers. So they began to mobilize their army and prepare for this bloody war of succession. So they mobilized their armies. And Aurangzeb defeats Dara Shikoh's, Shah Jahan forces at the Battle of Daramat, and then at the Battle of Samogar, he defeats Dara Shikoh's forces. And so in the aftermath, he crowns himself the emperor. And then that is the War of Succession. And then afterwards, he still has the threats, his three brothers. Murad, tensions were growing after the Battle of Samulgar, and he declared himself emperor. So he basically brought him unarmed. He gave him something to drink, and then afterwards he imprisoned him. And then with Shah Shoja, he sent generals to pursue him across the Bengal region, and then he fled into Arakan, and then he was killed by the Arakanese ruler. And Arakan is modern-day Rakhine, where the Rohingya, were living, and unfortunately they have been genocided. And then regarding Dara Shikoh builds an army. They fight at the Battle of Diorai. Then Dara Shikoh loses again, and then he tries to flee into Persia, but he gets captured by an Afghan noble by the name of Malik Jiwan, and then he's brought to the capital. And then afterwards, Aurangzeb sits him down and says, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to, how would you execute me? Or how would you deal with me? And he said, I would execute you, chop you up, parade you. He said all these gruesome things. And so Aurangzeb fulfilled his wishes and done it on him. And that's how Aurangzeb consolidated power against his brothers.
So basically, once he is crowned, now he nearly goes on to rule India for nearly 50 years. And when I say India, it is the United India at that time, which included Afghanistan, modern-day Pakistan, and Bangladesh, along with modern-day India. So it was a huge empire which he was ruling, which was beneath and under his control. Moving on, once he came, he ruled for nearly 50 years. Right now, we have few things presented about him. Was Aurangzeb really a very brutal ruler in terms of his policies towards the non-Muslims, those who were not in the fold of Islam? Was he a biased ruler? Was he favoring the Muslims, or there is a different story to this narration?
All right. So regarding Aurangzeb, was he a tyrant? Was he a bigot? Was he all these things that the Hundred say? My answer, and the answer of many historians, like these new historians such as Richard Eaton and Audrey Trush, is no, he was not a bigot, he was not a tyrant. The main arc of his reign, as crazy as it sounds to the brainwashed, is he wanted to dispense justice across his realm. Like in his letters, in his writings, in a lot of primary sources penned by Aurangzeb, he always talks about how he wants to dispense justice, how he saw himself as a just ruler. For example, he created this thing called the Motisip, which was a basic institution, a public office to ensure safety across the marketplace in the souk. Another example of his justice was that he would twice a day, to receive petitions that accused the Mughal government of wrongdoings. Is this someone that's unjust, or is that someone who wants to know what's going on in his empire, wants to right the wrongs that he may be doing? Furthermore, in 1675, he proclaimed that anyone that had an issue with the government could go to these judges that he appointed in every single area of his kingdom, whether that was in Bangladesh, in modern-day Bangladesh, in modern-day Pakistan, or in the south of India, or central India or northern India. In all these places, there was these officials appointed by him to hear the complaints of his rule. Another thing that he had was a thing called the Akbarat, which was news bulletins that would inform him of what was happening in his empire. Was that this someone that would who doesn't like his subjects, who wants to oppress his subjects, or is this someone that wants the best for his subjects? So yeah, that is
amazing to know that. Definitely, even despite of having democracy today in the modern world, we have atrocities going on, but none of them blame the leaders or the government or the political structure. But same thing, even the monarchy which was there during the time of Aurangzeb, he did his best to ensure that the people could get justice based on the facts that you just said right now.
Yeah.
Was Aurangzeb, a fanatic Muslim ruler who imposed the Sharia upon his subjects and forced the people to give jizya? Obviously, those who were not obliged to follow Islam, the non-Muslims, they were forced to give the jizya. Were such things done by Aurangzeb and those kings who came before him, who preceded him? What
Mhm.
were was their taxation policy or was their fiscal policy more tolerant, more flexible, and more involving the subjects?
Okay, so let's go back to the start of the Mughal Empire. So when Babur comes, he of course he establishes the jizya, and this is even in the Delhi Sultanate period, and this happens up until Akbar's time, but he remits it in 1564. And then after that, jizya is not applied across the Mughal state up until 1675 by Aurangzeb. And yes, he implemented the jizya. However, the Muslims had to pay zakat. And normally the zakat is more than the jizya. So you can't say, oh, we're subjected to the jizya when Aurangzeb, he, you know, not forced, but his subjects had to pay the zakat. Because if you didn't, you're going against one of the pillars, one of the five pillars of Islam. Furthermore, according to some historians, Aurangzeb actually removed the taxes on pilgrims, Hindu pilgrims, Sikh pilgrims, Jain pilgrims. Um, so that's the thing. Even though Akbar put these taxes on pilgrims to these sites, Aurangzeb rescinded them. So it shows you that okay, he gave the jizya, which the jizya is less than the zakat, but he allowed for his subjects to practice their own religion, go to their shrines, their sites without having to pay. So, furthermore, the next thing you said is that did he force Sharia law on his subjects? So, within the Mughal Empire, there was some type of Sharia law established by Babur, but it wasn't codified. This was only codified in 60. Sorry, the jizya was in 1679. This what I'm going to say next is in 1675. No, 79. Sorry. The jizya was in 1679, and now we're going to the when he
Codification.
imposed Sharia. Yeah. So he codified Sharia law. This is known as the Fatwa-e Alamgiri or the Fatwa-e Hindiya. And this was a compilation of Islamic jurisprudence in the Hanafi madhab, so the Hanafi school of thought. He codified it so there was no room for debate, contradiction, and this covered everything: marriage, divorce, property, military. This Sharia encompassed every single part of someone's life, and this took about 8 years, from 1667 to 1675. And did he impose it on Hindus? That's a fantastic question that people love to point out. Firstly, within Hindustan, within the Delhi Sultanate, within the Mughal Empire era, the Hindus had their own system. They didn't have codified law. This actual codified law only came about during the British time. And this is not my words. This is in the book India and the Persianate Age by Richard Eaton, where they started making their own, like Sharia, for lack of better words, their own law. However, they did have this system called the Panchayat system, Panichat. Sorry, forgive me for my mispronunciation. Where
Panchayat.
Panchayat, where the elders would discuss and give the Islamic words always in my head, but like give fatwas and rulings based on their local customs and traditions and their culture.
Yeah.
And this is not my words. Again, this is in the book. It's in this book right here. Yeah, this is a nice. Can you see it? A short history of the Mughal Empire by Michael Fisher. This talks about he talks about in this book, page 99. I remember it. I don't know how I remember it, but I do remember it. He said that the Hindus were just went to the Panchayat, and that's their system throughout the Mughal Empire. However, what's very interesting about the Fatwa-e Alamgiri is that the system wasn't just used by Hindus, by Muslims. It was used by Muslim Hindus. Hindu women preferred the Sharia because it gave better rights than their own panchayats. And so it's very interesting that the Hindutva say that Sharia was enforced, that they had to rule by Islam when they don't even read history books, when they don't even know their own history, that they had the panchayats, but their ancestors didn't go to the panchayats. Their ancestors went to the Sharia courts instead. People need to know about the jizya is that it was just men that had to pay. If you were ill, if you were an elder, if you were a child, if you were insane, a Brahmin, Rajput officers, Maratha officers, everyone was exempt except men of provision and ability to provide.
During the time of Aurangzeb, his 50 years of rule, what was the you say the relationship he had carried on with inter Indian society as well as the international politics? Like the Safavids were there in Iran, we had the Ottomans, and we had other parts. So, what exactly was his policy? Is there anything to say about it?
So, are you talking about so regarding his policies with the Ottomans? Um, this is very, very short. He actually first let me talk with about the Sharif of Mecca. The Sharif of Mecca, he used to send gifts to the Sharif of Mecca when he came into power in 1658. However, the Sharif of Mecca rejected it. The reason for this is that the war of succession and whatnot, he didn't agree with how Aurangzeb conducted himself. However, after a while, he started accepting the gifts, and Aurangzeb continued sending people to the pilgrimage, to the Hajj, to perform Hajj, which had stopped during Akbar's time and came back during Shah Jahan's time, and he continued this practice. Regarding the Ottomans, he called them the Kaisers, which means like the rulers, is a word from the Roman times, Kaiser meaning emperor or whatnot, but he never called them the Khulafa, which is very interesting. Um,
Yes.
Regarding the Safavids, I don't have too much to say on that because there wasn't much, from my understanding, going on. However, regarding Hindus, um, in um, in his, let's say, in his court, is that what you want me to talk about? Yeah, Hindus in his court.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so when the War of Succession happened, the the high-ranking Hindu officials, or the Hindus in um, his entourage, let's say, for lack of better words, was around 21.6%.
Okay.
And you say, oh, people say, oh, he hated Hindus. But then why did 21% of the people in his entourage, in his mansab, were Hindu? How is that possible? 21%. That's one fifth. That's 20. That's over 20%. Meanwhile, Dara Shakur was about 22%. While Akbar, who's seen as this amazing figure, was around the same 22, 23%. And what's very interesting is that by the time of Aurangzeb's death, 31% of his officials were Hindu. That shows that's nearly a 50% increase, and that's the highest of any single Mughal emperor.
We begin our day, with having some light breakfast, something energetic, so that we can have a good day and we can do all our duty and chores very easily.
Yeah.
It is said that Aurangzeb, until he doesn't used to kill, until he never used to kill 10,000 people, 10,000 Hindus, he couldn't feel the peace for his day. So was it true that he used to massacre, Hindus and the other non-Muslim subjects on daily basis?
No, this is a complete
Can you
lie.
just calculate on per day, if it is 10,000, then in 50 years of his rule, how many people could have been killed as per the estimate? And do they
10,
match with the census data of 1700s of Indian population?
That's 10,000 a day, that's like 10,000. That's like 3 million a year. That's like what? That's like 150 million in his whole reign. But the population, I don't know exactly the population at the time, but the population increased a lot during his reign. So this lie by the Hindutva is absolutely bogus. Yeah, the reason why there's a lot of anti Aurangzeb propaganda is
So we
it
will
all
come to
came.
the anti-Aurangzeb propaganda at the end. But was this figure true? And if not, what was the real picture?
This figure was not true. He wasn't just going out massacring Hindus, killing Hindus, you know, being a genocidal fanatic. This is far from the case. His reign, like he was just busy with, you know, as I said before, looking at the news bulletins, receiving petitions, going out to war, or the normal thing of a Hindu. What's very interesting of a Muslim monarch. Sorry.
Okay. Moving to our last allegation, which is most profound allegation, is that he broke down multiple thousands of temples and prayers of worship other than mosque, and definitely he constructed thousands of masajid. which they conclude by saying that he was a radical Islamic ruler, and that is what the Islamic or Muslim monarchs do. That's what the that religion. That's what the teaching of Islam are. That's how they try to portray. So are there some instances where he really broke down the temples, or it's a myth, it's a lie, and what exactly the truth is?
Okay, so the truth is that he didn't destroy thousands of temples. He didn't just go out and think of one temple and just destroy it because he just got excited or he just wanted to impose Islam. So we have to first look at these allegations, where they come from. So the allegations are stemmed from the British colonial era. The reason for this is that they wanted to divide and conquer. So they wrote this narrative that he destroyed thousands of Hindu temples, when in reality, he didn't destroy temples, but it was nowhere near 1,000. It was between 15 to 24. And the reason for this is always political. It was never religious. It was never a case of, oh, I need to destroy this temple because they're Hindu and I hate Hindus. No. Let me quickly run you through some examples. For example, in Bihar, he destroyed a temple because they went against Mughal authority. Another example, in 1669, he ordered the Vishwanatha temple in Banaras demolished. So, for context, Rajaman Singh had been given this temple during the time of Akbar. However, his grandson Jai Singh had helped Shivaji escape the Mughal court in 1666. And furthermore, in the following year, the Marufa Kashava temple was also destroyed in 1670. And the reason for this is that the Mathura Brahmins assisted Shivaji in his flight again in 1666. Meanwhile, there's another added political case that there was a Jat rebellion within Mathura, so he destroyed the temple. As we see, the modern government is BJP, Hindutva, and even the RSS, if I'm not mistaken, very radical wing. They have this idea of Hindu nationalism. And when you try to unite your people, you need an enemy. And this is off topic, but this has happened in Eastern Europe against the Ottomans. And so the Hindus in India are doing it against the Muslims. And so what they do is they create an enemy. And the enemy is the Muslims. The enemy is anyone that is diligent and strong in their deen, like Aurangzeb, because Aurangzeb was the most religious ruler out of all the emperors. And however, this is amplified by the British, because when the British came, as I said, they wanted to divide and conquer. They said, oh, the Muslims ruled you for from the Delhi Sultanate 1204 to 1757, and then 1857 with the Mughal Empire, Mughal Emperor, but he was basically powerless. They use it as oh look, they ruled you, they done this, they done that, and so it builds a kind of hatred, and so this all culminates in an identity against Aurangzeb.
Pablo, it was very amazing to have a conversation with you regarding the one of the greatest rulers of India, Aurangzeb Alamgir, who took India to a very next stage, and India by the time had become the most powerful country. If you did like our video, then do subscribe, share, and comment your feedbacks. Inshallah, until again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.